Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 23rd Reno County Commission regular session. I'll call the meeting to order. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer by Pastor Dustin Dick of Bueller Mennonite Brethren Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Dustin.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we just thank you for this morning. We thank you for the opportunity that we have to gather here. We thank you for a new morning that you've created. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We just want to lift up today's meeting, that you would just guide and direct it. We also pray for wisdom and insight for the leaders. May you help them and give them discernment in all the decisions that they have to make. We know sometimes they're complex, sometimes they're simple, but whether they're big or small, may you give wisdom, may you give guidance, and may people be blessed by the leadership here. And so we just want to lift up this time, lift up this opportunity that we have to gather. May you lead, guide, and direct it. We're thankful for today. We're thankful for all the blessings that you've poured out upon us and everything that you've given to us through Jesus. And so we're so thankful for today, and we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Again, welcome everybody. Today, the next item on the agenda is a proclamation that September is National Recovery Month. I think the health department's here. Seth?
Thank you for letting us come and read this. Whereas the misuse of alcohol and illicit substances cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars every year, and we also see the devastating cost on quality of life and mortality that even rural America and Kansas is not immune to. And whereas the impacts stretch from families to the workforce, from schools to the medical community, and all feel the effects. And whereas recovery is a process of change through which people improve their health and wellness, build resilience, live self-directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential by better managing health, home, purpose, and community. Further, the Reno Recovery Collaborative is one of the local resources for recovery and resilience-based services. And further, that by building a durable network of community partners from the medical and behavioral health sector, social services, law enforcement, persons with lived experience, and Oxford houses. The Reno Recovery Collaborative partners are poised to offer and refer families the means to build resilience, offsetting the effects of ACEs and reducing the public cost of substance use disorder, and further, that all Reno County recovery by showing support and understanding, and by being a part of the continual progressing cultural shift that Reno County has been leading the charge on and instilling in the hearts and minds of its children.
Thank you, Seth. So now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Reno County, Kansas, that September 2022 shall be known as National Recovery Month. Signed, County Board of Commissioners. Thank you for your work. Next item on the agenda is public comment for items not on the agenda. Is anyone here for that? Seeing none. Any additions or revisions? I have two. I'd like to get the consent of the commission. Item 6F and 6G, both consent item agendas. 6F would be the approval of the appointment of Assistant Sedgwick County District Attorney Robert Short as Special Counsel for Reno County District Court, case number 21 CR 896, and the addition of 6G is the approval of Yoder Heritage Days fireworks permit. Is there any objection to those changes?
Need a motion.
We can do
I
a
would
motion.
approve,
Okay.
move to approve the additions to the agenda as the additions.
Second.
Commissioner Hurst motions, Commissioner Sellers seconds. Discussion on the agenda change. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Hold it, okay. Yeah, I do have a couple questions on the
I'm sorry.
consent agenda as
A
a
little
whole.
quick.
Is
Yep.
it, or just the
This
change?
is the amendment to the
Oh,
adding.
okay, thank
Is that
you.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Sellers?
Yes,
Commissioner Friesen?
Yes. So now we have the amended consent agenda on the table. Take a motion or discussion.
okay.
Anyway.
On item 6G, I'm aware of the situation where Yoder was late getting their permit in for the fireworks display. I'm being told this morning that all the documents are now there. Is that correct, Randy?
Yes.
And what day is this for? Is this for next Saturday night?
This,
Saturday.
This coming Saturday night? And my final question there is the appropriate fire control being taken care of by this permit? As it's drier and dry,
Well, the district fire chief has to approve these permits, and he has.
and he has. Okay, thank you for that. My other questions would be to Don Britton in regard to the contract for the Cow Creek Bridge, please. I think there's a lot of people that are very happy that we've got this bridge this far, but Don, in a conversation you and I had yesterday, I think the contractor's got some leeway on when they might start, and the start date might not be until next year. Is that what you're understanding?
That's true. I didn't create a start date in order to get better bids. There's a lot of work out there, and if you hold them tight to when they start, then I might not have got as good bids. So I'm suspecting that it will start late 2022 or sometime in 2023.
Okay, well, I wanted the public to know that because knowing that we approved this bid, they'll probably think that somebody will be there tomorrow. And that probably won't happen. Is your experience with this contractor good?
Yes, very good.
So he would be a preferred contractor of yours, and was the low bid out of what, 4?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I'd take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Commissioner Hurst moves.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sellers.
I might state that this permit for the fireworks at Yoder, I really think that the public knows the rules for these things. They've done it in the past. This should have been in on time. My experience with county employees are they are very willing to work with people and help people get things done if they come to them in the appropriate time. And I just think that this is somewhat offensive to county staff that this has to be done in this way. Obviously, the county commissioners won't let them do the fireworks if it's safe, but this permit should have been taken care of, and I think it's a slam on some of our employees that we have to do this on a special situation.
And I did, Commissioner Sellers, when I got that phone call, I did ask if they did not have a book that was detailed out on dates to when things needed to be done. Surely they have committee meetings and so forth to get this big production underway. And I asked if they had one, and they didn't. And I said, I would highly suggest that you put together a book that has everything on it, with the dates and when they need to be done, and that I would not guarantee whether they would get a permit or not. And so that was entirely my conversation regarding with Weldon Headings of Yoder. Made it pretty plain.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Well, and I got a call as well, and I agree with your comments, Commissioner Sellers. At the same time, you know, the individual was apologetic, and you know, I think it's a tough situation. We don't want to go against staff. They're just following the rules, and so I support them in that. At the same time, you know, nobody wants their fireworks display shut down either for a community event. So I agree, it's not the best of situations, so.
Commissioner, if I may say something, I and the county administrator had a little visit regarding this, and maybe it's something that staff should look at on whether we make this just straight 10 days, whether we make it 10 business days, or whether we make it 15 days. I think that needs to be looked at regarding this, and I think the staff can take a look at that and make their recommendations to us. What do you?
I think it's worth seeing what Randy thinks we should do on that. And I think my biggest concern about approving this is this will happen to somebody else, and they say, well, you did it for Yoder, so you need to do it for me. And I think all of our rules and regulations are clear enough that people know when they should get things into the county, and I really just don't want to make these exceptions time after time. And so, to me, this is the one and last time.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst?
Yes.
Commissioner Sellers?
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen?
Yes. Okay, moving on, item 7A is set the canvass day time for the USD 311 school bond special election. Randy?
Jenna Fager from the Deputy County Clerk and Elections Officer has requested for USD 311 school bond special election that takes place on September 6th. Wanted to throw out having the canvass date be 8 a.m. September 13th, which would be right an hour before the regular county commission meeting for that day. Wanted to see if that date was okay with everyone.
Is there a reason we just don't put it on the agenda? We went through the canvas in like 20 minutes and it had a lot of different.
I think it has to be a different meeting, especially if one or two commissioners are not available and you have an alternate, then you wouldn't, they wouldn't be a part of the normal county commission meeting. It could be maybe 8:30, because these take 15 minutes, 30 minutes at the most, usually.
Well, this should be a short one since it's pretty prairie, correct?
Yes.
Not a lot of votes down there.
And we will already be over in that room.
Be over at the annex, yes.
We set it for 8:30 on the 13th.
That's fine by me.
Does that help your schedule, Daniel?
It's fine, I just didn't think we needed an hour. Is 8:30 good? Okay. So I'll make a motion to set the canvas date for the 311 school bond special election for September 13th at 8:30 a.m. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Hurst. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst.
Yes.
Commissioner Sellers.
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes. Item 7B is the consent agreement and final order between the KDHE and Rural Water District Number 101. Andy? Don?
I'll talk about it real quick, and Don Britton's here also if I miss anything or if he wants to add things. Since it's a kind of a quasi-legal issue, I guess it kind of falls under the commissioners. Just background, every municipality or rural water district has their water tested by KDHE. And if KDHE is not happy with the results, they work with the district to approve them. And if they can't get approved, there's a process for KDHE to basically say either there's kind of a quasi-judicial process where the results are disputed, or if both sides agree that the results aren't good, to go into what they call a consent order. So that's what's being presented today as a consent order where the water district and KDHE both agree that there's a problem, and then it sets out as steps how to fix it. I guess the one thing in light of the town hall and all the discussion about this problem is, I just wanted to highlight in section 30 of a consent order, it sets out a process A through J that's pretty detailed, and it requires the water district to begin with step A and proceed through step J until the process is over. And I just point that out because whatever solution is come up with to this problem has to go through those steps and has to be approved by KDHE also. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that, but other than that, anything Don has to say, any questions you have, the recommendation of staff is just to authorize signature of the consent order today. Anything else, Don?
My question is not specific to the consent agenda, but it's specific to the town meeting that we had, 2 weeks ago, Monday or something like that. Don, one of the questions was that they wanted you to see if you could find from the state where that flume from the naval base is at this present time. Were you able to find anything out about that question?
I called on that last Thursday, and they're to send me that information this week.
So you think you'll get something on that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think the other thing that concerning this, and I guess it's not specific to this agenda item, but it's specific to what the commission's going to be willing to do, is there are some questions about going to the water board involved and seeing if they would allow different things and so forth. And the more I thought after this meeting, I feel like our public works directors doing this in the appropriate way and getting them good water, and we'll be able to mix it with some less clear water. But after thinking about all the discussion down there, to me, Mr. Britton's approach is the approach for the long term, and I think that's what we ought to be supporting here. And I'm not asking for you to agree on that, but that's my feeling at this point in time, that other ways are not going to be a long-term solution for these people. So,
I would agree with you, Commissioner Sellers. that any way you look at it, if you could find water somewhere else, there is no guarantee that in 3 years, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, that won't be polluted with nitrates, considering the soil properties in that area and the ability to get water rights. And if you get, say it 10 turns out 7, you still got a situation that may increase. And unfortunately, I'd like to think there was another way, but in reading some information regarding how many other towns are having this same problem, even with deeper wells and deeper situations, I think that's appropriate. I think Public Works is looking at it from a long-term standpoint, and it's unfortunate it's going to cost that much, but that's just the way it is, to provide water. And to provide also a chance for any other development that might want to come in on K96 corridor.
Thank you, Commissioner. I've got two questions. One is I need a level set again on they're like right now we're working on the District 101, but there are other problems around that area with sewer. Like, can you just list out the problems that we're actively working on with the sewer and water districts, just so I have because part of it, like, and I'd like to know if they're overlapping, because it's like we're having a conversation with the people in the Yoder area, and if there's another conversation that needs to be had about sewer, I think we should just have them together. But maybe you can describe the issues out there, so because I get them confused.
They're overlapping.
Okay.
Where the 101 water district problem will be solved first. As soon as we get the direction of exactly what we're going to do, and I think we're close to that. The sewer districts 201 and 202, which is Habit and Yoder, that has been ongoing. That is just as important. And as soon as we decide what we're going to do there, because we're pulled off in different directions at different times, but I believe we're getting closer there, because the two options are combining the two and establishing the sewer ponds at Habit by purchasing land, or now I'm in the process of, with the city, seeing about the city taking that on too. So that is all ongoing weekly.
Okay. And is it correct 101 and 201 are Yoder water and sewer?
That's correct.
Okay, and then 202 is Habit sewer.
That's correct.
So there's no problem with 102. Is that a water district, or did I just make that up?
You just made that
up. Good. Okay, that's helpful.
You might have been thinking, there's a water district at Habit, which is not, the county is not involved with that.
Okay, great. So, I guess my other question is, like, if we're talking about connecting the water system together with 101, and the same area involves a sewer system with 201, like, wouldn't there be some efficiencies of putting both pipes in at the same time if we could connect the sewer to the city?
I don't think, I can look into that. When you join Yoder and Habit and that sewer system, I don't know that pipe would go in the same location as the water for Water District Yoder.
Okay. I guess I'm just concerned we're going to duplicate not only like community conversations and frustrations they have, but also potentially duplicate costs with engineering and everything else if we could combine the efforts together, since looks like we have to mitigate both problems, right?
Yeah, you just can't combine the engineering on the sewer district versus the water district. It's two complete separate things, and plus the sewer districts are combining two districts. But
I mean, but in theory, you could save money if you're, if the backhoe's there and it's making a bigger trench and it's just putting 2 pipes in, and you got one contract and.
as soon as we get a direction from the Board of County Commissioners, as soon as we get you everything you need and you make that decision, then we can determine that. To go to the city to ask them if they would take Habit and Yoder Sewer is just started again last week, because we went there once and it was denied somewhat by the city. So then I've been working towards possibly purchasing land to build the sewer ponds to join them. And now since that, we're back to seeing whether the city would take it. So that's where I've been in this process. And now I think now I'm working towards the city for both of them to see where that goes.
Okay.
And then once we have that and we see if that's a viable option, we'll bring that to you and you can tell us what you want us to do.
Okay, so
And
to be
then-
fair, today, we're not even really talking about that. We're just signing this consent agreement that kind of kicks off our official obligation to solve 101's issue.
Correct.
But you'll come back to us and talk through whether there's some opportunity to work this together,
Yes.
sounds like, once you have all the facts.
Yeah, as soon as we know what we're doing, then engineering, I'll see whether or not they can fit together on construction.
But they're really somewhat in different places, aren't they?
They're totally different.
Yeah, I think part of the answer to your question, Mr. Chairman, is the water line and the sewer line are in different places, and if you connected the two, you're not even dealing with the water area.
Well, where the Habit and where the Yoder connection would be if we was gonna take it to the city, I don't know where that'd be.
I
I don't
see,
know if that'd be
okay.
at Yoder, I don't know if that'd be at Habit, I don't know if that'd be in between. I don't know how that works as of yet.
Okay.
Because we haven't got that far down the road.
I guess, again, if we were building them from scratch, we would absolutely do what you're suggesting and try and get efficiencies. But the problem is we're having to redo things we're having to fix and improve things that were done a long time ago, and that's more complicated than that.
Yeah, well, I guess my thought was they're gonna maybe go close to the same point.
Yeah.
They're headed to the same kind of general area. Maybe that's not true. I'm just looking for ways to save money.
I'll try to get it as cheap as I can.
Now, doesn't KDHE also require certain separation distance between a water line and a sewer
I'm
line?
sure they do. And I haven't got there yet,
Yeah.
because we're not there yet.
Just for consideration?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that it with me?
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Is there a motion to approve the execution of the consent agreement in final order?
I'd make that motion.
It's a motion by Commissioner Sellers,
Second?
second by Commissioner Hurst. Discussion. Don?
Yes, and when you sign that, or you sign it, also there's a place where they had the number of connections that I've corrected and initialed, and you are to initial that also.
Okay. Will do.
And when you sign that, Daniel, you're saying that you're gonna make something happen.
That's right.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking all these questions. If the commission would allow a little latitude, since we're on this general topic, I was going to ask Randy a question for all the commissioners here. Like I pushed Randy again to set a higher rate. And he pushed back again and said, we're almost there. When, like, I think there was even agreement amongst the community members generally that, like, we got to pay more. We
Don and I had a meeting with the Ranton Financial last week.
Okay.
We had a call. There were a couple of additions. We have kind of a base, I don't have it in front of me, the numbers, so I can't recite those, but we have an idea of that amount. What we're still waiting on is putting into the calculation what the difference for the base rate would be for commercial versus residential,
okay.
to get to the right number. And Don, I don't know if you remember the numbers. You do?
But aren't you,
Spoke
Mr.
to
Chairman,
Sue.
just looking for maybe even a temporary rate for the next year
Yeah,
or so?
well, and I should, since I brought it up without context, we know that this project will be hundreds of thousands of dollars at a minimum. The fund has $10,000 in it today, and it needs to be, the rate needs to be increased at
And
a
what we're
substantial
looking-
level.
Yeah, what we're looking at is doesn't take into account the bond that we may have, the loan. This is just for catching us up to where we should be right now.
It's just like, so my point is, and I've brought it up 3 times now, is we keep trying to make some perfect rate decision, and, we need to just start putting money in the pot, because
And we will have a recommendation, and Don will give you some more details, but we will have a recommendation in the next couple of months to put this in place.
I have the rate for what the rate should be right now to maintain it, what we have as of now, and create what we should have had as a savings for future infrastructure. That doesn't have anything to do with what the cost of the project's going to be. The rate as of right now should be $34 per month, flat rate for the residents. It should be $2.50 per 1,000 gallons of water used with no free water. You start paying for the water since you start using it.
well, doesn't it make sense to just get that done and stair step people up versus hitting them with a $70 rate now?
I think, and I will have that, I think that the commercial rate should be probably at least twice the flat rate, but she will give me that answer, and I will press on that to have that within a week. And then when that's done, I think those rates should go in effect now.
Okay.
And we'll have a resolution stating that.
Okay. Well, I would like it on the agenda in September, and we're gonna
Do so.
do something.
We'll have it.
Okay.
Well, a question, who does the billing of this?
Who does the billing?
Where's the billing done?
Public Works.
Your office does the water billings for that district?
Yes.
Didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
It's not out of the realm, and in past history of different communities, that there's a certain amount of raise every year, every 2 years.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that should be known to those that,
These rates should have started raising 25 years ago,
Yeah.
but they just haven't.
Okay.
Well, I think, Daniel, you were right a year ago, and you're still right.
Well, that feels pretty good to come from you. Thank you.
And I agree with you too, Daniel.
Wow.
Well, not often.
We
but
should just
once
stop
in a
right
great
now.
while.
don't get too big ahead there, Daniel.
All right. Thanks for a little latitude there.
We need to vote.
Yeah. Was there a motion in a second? No.
Mhm.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Sellers.
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes. I thought we voted on that. We didn't vote?
I thought we did.
No.
You made your motions, but you didn't.
Oh, okay.
You started talking instead.
Okay. Thanks. That was out of order by me, so sorry about that. The item 7C is a very interesting item. I'd never heard of this before. If staff, Patrick, are you the one that?
Yeah, Commissioner, as part of our agricultural heritage in Kansas, we have, every once in a while, the commissioners get thrown a fence viewing. It is a very old process that was put in place a long time ago. Generally, two neighbors are able to come to some sort of an understanding regarding a fence between their property, but the process is in place for if they are not in agreement. And what the process is sets the commissioners as kind of the final kind of arbiters of fencing. You could theoretically, all three of you go out and view the fence together, but for a lot of COMA reasons, other reasons, it's generally suggested that you appoint one commissioner and maybe a couple other fence viewers to go out. We look at we notify the requesting landowner, who's actually here, Mrs. Sill, and we notify the neighbor so they can participate also. And we physically view it, and we ask questions if questions come up, and then we come back with a recommendation to this Board of Commissioners to approve. So the purpose today is to identify who those people are going to be and when we're going to do it. If we can get a date today, if not, those people can talk and set it later. But that's kind of what we're up to today, is just get the process in motion.
How many people need to be on this viewing group?
I don't think it sets by statute, but I was thinking 3. 2 obviously is not a good number to have it, and 1 seems like it's too much for one person, so that's where I come up with 3.
Previously, when we've done this, the commissioners went out. But I take your advice.
can.
I take your advice, but that's usually what we
I
did
did it
before.
once with you 3 years ago, but that wasn't a fence issue, was
No.
it? That was a land dividing line.
yeah.
It's similar to land fencing, road closures, and a few other things. This is have a kind of a similar process for
And
field trip.
then what happens if the applicant or the neighbor doesn't agree with this fence group?
So what
They can go to district court? or-
well, they could theoretically. What it really does is say if the neighbor, you apportion the cost usually, say yes, there should be a fence here and it should be split in this way. Generally it's evenly, but sometimes it could be not 50-50. And then if one party doesn't pay it, there's penalties and interest if they refuse to do it. So it kind of just sets it up legally like, the theory is district court is very slow, so they kind of tried to make a process that's slightly faster. We're not nearly as fast as landowners usually want, but we get things done instead of a year-long process, a month or 2 or something.
Well, I'd like to suggest that there be one commissioner, our legal counsel, and Don Britton be the committee. Don understands these things as well as anybody when it comes to land, and that would be my suggestion.
Daniel, Commissioner. The attorney at Washburn University, I can't remember his name,
Is it David? Yeah, I know.
but he has an excellent description of the Kansas fencing laws, and it's very good. He presented at KCAC one year, and it was really good. And so I'd suggest just looking up the Kansas fencing laws so you get an idea of what's involved in that.
Yeah, and I'll brief.
Would you like to be the
whoever it is.
commissioner since you've got some background in this?
You have background too.
Not really. The last fence I put up, the neighbors said they wouldn't pay for it, so I paid for it.
This is usually an ag situation and not necessarily a homeowner's thing, I think.
So a couple thoughts I had. One is I think Patrick needs to be there, but I don't think you want him being part of the group because he may have to defend the decision.
Potentially.
I don't mind Commissioner Hurst doing it for the commission. I since it's in my district, I had a thought like perhaps I should do it, but if you wanted to be part of it and we bring Don and Commissioner Seller, since you have some experience, I think that would be okay too. We just have to do an open meeting notice.
It's relatively a common sense kind of thing. It just is when two neighbors can't quite come to an understanding, they need to have a neutral party, and that is the commissioners by statute.
I just mentioned that Kansas fencing laws and the attorney at Washburn, who is an expert. I would call him an expert in this area.
Well, I did look at the statute, and I'll make note that if you are a fence viewer, you get $7.50 for your efforts. Yeah. It's in a statute. It's been there since
It's in your area.
the 40s, I think.
It's in yours. Why? But I would suggest you get a hold of the attorney up there because he can put it in a little more common sense idea than what the state statute is.
And I'll absolutely brief whoever is a part of this just to go over too. And actually, Sam Brownback, when he was Ag Secretary, wrote a book that is excellent on Kansas Ag Law, and I've got a copy of it. I might just copy it.
But so, in reading the request, from the sills. There appears to be multiple issues here, and some of them I don't know.
Some of them may not are going to be beyond the power of this group, but when they first called orally to make a request for a fence viewing, I asked them to put it in writing what they were looking for. We're not going to be able to solve all the issues between that are brought up. We're going to identify where the fence should be and who should pay for it, essentially.
But what's confusing to me is, like, with modern surveying, like, it's going to show you exactly where the boundary is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the dispute?
Jeez, I mean, the dispute is, I think one party just doesn't want to pay for it. I think you know what we should do? I've only heard from Mrs. Sill. I haven't heard from the other landowner. So what we should do is notice them up and get both sides of the story, because I've only have one side. My experience a little bit, I know, like when I practiced a lot more agriculture law than I have in the last year, the satellites give a different boundary line than great-grandpa and grandpa had 100 years ago. So you kind of have it accepted where everyone feels like the boundary is, and it's frequently off from what satellite and modern technology shows. So that can be an issue. I think they have some issue with brush here, and then just whether or not they want to put it, who having to actually write a check for a fence if one party doesn't really that excited about having it is usually an issue.
Well, Mrs. Sill is here and she's flagging me down back there. Is it okay if we come up?
Commissioner, I think that this commission is only involved with the fence law.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, there are other things that they might be in dispute about that have to get settled
That's
somewhere
not
else.
our concern.
So
We're just limited.
So we are determining where the fence should be.
Should there be a fence here? Where should it be? Is it at this spot that this landowner has kind of identified where they think that it should go? The fence viewers will go and say whether or not they agree with that. And then they have to apportion the cost, which is, in every instance I've been involved, it's half and half, but theoretically the statute allows for it to be different than that for some reason.
Mrs. Sill.
Thank you. Actually, I think it's even simpler than you've laid out.
Great.
With the Schroeders, we share two boundaries. The east-west fence line, I don't even believe they have any dispute. There is an old fence there, pre-1985. It's been in total disrepair since 2005 or 6 when a fire went through. But they have not even disputed that is where it belongs. So that location there is not an issue. The issue where on the fence line that runs north-south, when they moved in 2 years ago, there was no fence there. And as I explained in the letter, we had done a land exchange with the previous owners to correct surveyed lines and fence lines. So this spring we began to prepare to put in the new fence line. The Schroeders did dispute that. They did have a survey done. It was done on Good Friday, back I believe in April. And on that day, the surveyor said, no, these marks are exactly where it is. The survey is right there. At the end of the survey, he said, do you have any questions? And neither of us did. So I don't think the location, even on the north-south line, is the dispute. When we started, this was heavily infested. We've cleared 10 acres of cedar trees and hardwoods and brush for fire mitigation habitat and putting in the fence for pasture. So when we were preparing, we used the article from Washburn. We used an article from Kansas Farm Bureau. I read the Kansas statute. I talked to our contractor to be sure when we were working that we were staying where we needed to be. The question on the north-south line is, did we stay within the 3-foot boundary for access for installation and maintenance of the fence? The Schroeders believe that we cut down a number of their trees that we did not need to. We did our very best. We knew we had 3 feet that we had to stay within, but you've got cedar trees that it was difficult. So did we stay in line, or did we offend them, and do we owe them? For the 3 trees we cut down, we cut one of ours down, left firewood for them.
Okay. Well,
But the issue is, did we stay within there
let me
from our
ask
perspective?
Patrick, a question. So that if we go out there and we say the fence is in the right spot,
Uh-huh,
that's
that's our job.
all we can do.
And
like whether who owes what, like if it's in the right spot and they have evidence that they're in the 3 feet, then that's a different issue, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But the statute kind of requires people to go, it's kind of like a road opening or a road closing, if you've ever been involved in one of those processes where the statute makes someone physically inspect it. And it will also, and I'm not, Mrs. Sills, we've only heard her side, so you do have to give notice to the other side to hear what they might offer about the situation and go through the process.
So, and would we be deciding on who pays for the fence as well?
Yeah, and then that's the other part is make an apportionment of who pays for the fence.
Normally, traditionally, historically, each person, you own this land and I own this land, typically we face each other away from it, and the right-hand side of each one is our responsibility, is our landowner's responsibility. That's typically, and I don't know of any other, that's pretty well the way it is.
It's a very common way of settling the dispute.
So, just to be clear, for you, Ms. Sill, sounds like we can and we are obligated to come out and view the fence. We can make a determination if it's in the right spot, and we can apportion the cost for the fence.
And that is correct. And that is as far as we go. In terms of what other conflicts or issues that creates between the parties, that's up for them civilly to.
And one other question, would it be helpful to have a surveyor there?
It could be if we could find one, and I don't know. They would cost more than the $750 is one issue if it's a surveyor.
Well,
So.
Is that,
Probably.
we don't have county surveying capabilities?
I don't know that we do.
What we do, we're not a certified surveyor, but what I understand at this ground, the surveying pins are in place, aren't they?
Okay.
Yeah. So usually.
Have they put up pins above, or they've got pins in the ground
They've
where
got
that
the pins in
location
the
is?
corner in
Do you
the,
have any uprights where they're at?
yes,
Okay.
sir.
That
So-
helps.
I've done them before without a surveyor there, but if the surveying it's obviously helpful if the pins are there and if someone can prove.
And they're
conditions
close
are there.
enough, I mean, how long is the fence in question?
It's probably 800 feet on, 800 to 1,000 feet on one run and 400 feet on the other, 500 feet on the other one.
Is there, I've got a weird question. Is, in the hopes of solving this, could you ask both parties to agree that if we come out there and look at the buffer zone, like we can make a determination on that as well and just try to solve the dispute so there's not further legal?
My experience representing private landowners in these kinds of things and counties is that by going through our process, it will help them clarify their other issues.
Okay.
But there's a limit to what we can't make them agree, but we can set this fence up.
Okay. Would you be okay if the two of us?
I
plus
think
Don?
that you're interested, since it's your district, and
He's
Mr.
good.
Hurst knows a lot of background on this, and I agree, your county councilor maybe shouldn't be a voting person, but if we can talk Don Britton into it, there's your three people.
Okay. He may not have a choice.
Commissioner Britt, Don's a busy man.
What do you think, Don?
Yeah,
Okay.
Don understands these
So-
issues also, so.
So the conclusion is what?
I
Two
make
of
the
us.
motion that we appoint Commissioner Hurst and Commissioner Friesen and Don Britton to be the fence board.
That will be a public meeting, and so it'll have to be notified.
It will be.
I'll second that. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes.
Commissioner Sellers,
Yes.
Mr. Friesen.
Yes.
No, but
Do we need to have a date, Commissioner?
if you want to consult your calendars and get that to me soon, that's okay. If you want to do it now, you can. It's up to you guys.
And I think it would be helpful to reiterate the two questions. So when we go out there, we're not trying to answer other questions.
When I send a notice out to both sides, even though this is here, I'm going to send both sides a notice, and I'll try and give them some background as to what the limitations are of this, because, we don't have authority to do all the things they probably would like done.
It would be nice if the parties came and allowed us to help resolve it, even if you have other legal.
Sometimes setting it for fence viewing and going through the process creates a little bit of a reason for the parties to resolve it. You never know, but sometimes that just gets the ball rolling. So that'd be great. If they adjudicate it themselves, then they can call us and we can cancel it.
We didn't seek this out. This was a result of receiving a demand letter. Our intent all along is we were paying for the entire project because we didn't want to hassle with them. And they didn't have livestock, we do. We were gonna pay it. But the nature of the fact that we can't get them to talk to us, even though we've offered 4 or 5 times, and I've got documentation of that. This isn't the way that Wayne and I would prefer to do it.
No.
We are hoping that by you answering the 2 questions of were we able to stay within the bounds and to apportionment at this point, that will help us resolve the rest of it and make it a moot point.
We'll be sent out there to do one job, and that's fence viewing.
Yes, and that's all we're asking. We have no intent for anything else, sir, and no expectations of anything else.
Well, thank you for being here. We'll set up a time,
Okay.
and are both parties required to be there?
They're not required. Both parties are noticed, and no one's required to be there. Neither party's required to be there, but both parties can be there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You good?
Yep.
Okay.
I spent too much time, let's see, not enough of this, so I gotta get back on.
Okay. It's pretty easy stuff. 7D is a voting delegate and alternate for the Kansas Workers Risk Cooperative for County's annual meeting. Is that something you want to do, Randy?
I can mention it. So the voting delegate and the alternate, they need to be elected officials.
Oh, okay.
This is during the KAC conference in Overland Park in October. The elected officials that I think that are going are Commissioner Hurst and Donna Patton. I know both of them will be in attendance.
Okay. I'm going to try to get to some of it, but that I would motion. Will you want to be delegate?
That or Donna, I don't care.
I would motion to appoint Commissioner Hurst as our delegate and County Clerk Donna Patton as our alternate.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurst,
Yes,
Commissioner Sellers,
Yes.
Commissioner Friesen.
Yes. Same thing.
On the next item?
Yeah.
That's if you just want to nominate anyone for an at-large bid to be on the Board of Trustees. This takes no action. If you don't want to put someone on there, you don't need to do anything. It's the ones that are up for re-election are the Southwest District, I think, and Northeast District, and then there's a trustee at large. So,
No.
no, not it.
Does Donna want to do it?
I haven't talked to her about that. I don't know if she does.
Okay. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of interest. Okay. Hearing none, we'll keep moving. County Administrator Report.
Have the monthly department reports for a few of the departments. This is the Health Department, Human Resources, IT, Maintenance, Public Works, Solid Waste, and Treasure and Youth Services. Reading through those reports, wanted to see if there are any questions on this. Okay.
Well, I thought, in general, it looks like we're having more success in hiring. Several of the reports indicated that they've got new employees, and that the indication from HR seemed to be that we're getting more applicants. I think that's an interesting situation, certainly positive for the county. Would you agree, Randy, that seems to be happening?
Yes, we are getting a good number of applicants for the most part. There are still some positions that are more difficult to fill. Youth services, for example, if they have a detention officer and it needs to be a male or a female, and the shifts, those are hard to fill at points. Public Works, solid waste, there's always going to be turnover, and finding qualified applicants is still a challenge, but we are getting applications.
I have no question as far as the individual reports.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention was just kind of to keep your calendars open. We have meetings on these dates, but September 27th and October 25th, when the Health Department working on a strategic plan, and as Board of Health, you guys will be asked to join in different groups during those days. The October 25th one, that will be just the commissioners, maybe commissioner candidates, depending on because it is open to the public, since 3 of you will be meeting, but it's really to talk about the strategic plan and goals for the health department. The September 27th one, that's one where they're meeting with a bunch of different focus groups during the whole day. So I believe Carla was going to try to catch the commission after their normal commission meeting that day.
You say October 25th, that's on a Tuesday,
Yes.
and what,
It'll be in the afternoon or after the commission meeting, probably the afternoon, 1 to 4 is maybe what we're looking at.
Don, you need duplicates signed? You need a duplicate signed? Okay, there's a duplicate in here for the consent agreement.
And then also just a reminder that there was an email, just so you remember, that the Quad County Planning Forum meets on September 12th in Wichita. So they need RSVPs by Friday, September 2nd.
excuse me for asking again, what was the 27th? Because I was thumbing through my,
September 27th, that'll be after the commission meeting, another probably an hour, 90-minute session about the health department and strategic plan. That'll probably be more of or the early one. The October one's more of kind of a wrap up and discussions. So
Can you email those dates?
yes,
Yeah,
I will.
please do.
I just wanted to mention, since they are public meetings, I wanted to bring them up. And then just so you're aware, I know this is kind of a few months out, but November 22nd, that's the date that'll be after another commission meeting. This will be mainly more for Commissioner Friesen as a chairman, but was hoping to have a new commission orientation. So the commissioner elects, since we'll know by that point in November who the 3 coming in will be, to have an orientation with a welcome by Commissioner Friesen, explanation of what the commission, kind of the protocols that you guys have in place, legal information about Kansas open meetings and open records by Patrick, and then bringing in each director during the day for the candidates or the commissioner-elects to
what day?
meet him as incoming commissioner. November 22nd.
22nd.
And I know I think it may be Thanksgiving week, but that's still,
Do you have a time on that?
it'll be in the afternoon, probably 1 to 4, 1 to 5. And I'll read.
Patrick, will you be as clear as you can be on the differences in the open meeting law with conversations between what 3 was allowed and what 5 was allowed? Because I know I hear a lot of different views on that subject.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and having worked with five before, the issue, and it's similar to most city councils, explaining what a serial meeting is and how to avoid it is still very important. That's, yes, and I'll try and cover, I followed the Attorney General's presentation on COMA, and we'll try and go over it.
Thank you.
And Commissioner, I have one other item. So, last week, the Planning Commission approved the preliminary plat, or they approved the housing subdivision, I think 6 houses down a little bit northeast of Cheney Lake, or Cheney Reservoir. And since that approval took place, the Planning Commission would need to know if the County Commission wants to view the preliminary plat or wait until the final plat is ready and brought before the commission.
Why wouldn't we view it?
Huh?
Why would we not view it now?
I think usually it waits till the final plat, and Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more work for the engineering people and an extra step, but I think that I think he had a recommendation, didn't he? He recommended doing a final plat viewing,
Yes.
but it's up to you guys.
I have a question there, and maybe Randy or Don, you can answer this, but I saw that in their agenda, but I'm not extremely familiar with the plat. But as I recall, it just showed one road going into the area and terminating. And I thought we had a big, long discussion with the fire people that that's not in the interest of fire protection to have a road terminated. Now, I know that's a different department, but
One difference on, when we talked about with the fire department, that was like, for example, the Cottonwood complex,
Right.
that's one road and it had no other exit.
correct.
I mean, it dead ended. This will actually circle around, so it only has one exit out of the subdivision, but it can go either direction. That's one difference.
Don?
In this subdivision down here, it's a very short road, so it's a wide road going in with a roundabout. If the subdivision was very long, there would be crossroads and different avenues to get in and out, but this is a very short subdivision, and that's the difference.
So-
And this is the normal for that.
So Public Works and Planning's not objecting to what the fire people are wanting for the future. It's just a case that this isn't long enough to need it.
That's correct.
And it's farm ground around there, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, but who knows where the cedar trees are gonna be in 20 years.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I think the distance has a lot to do with it.
Well, and I don't wanna dwell on this, but I think that really needs to be considered in new developments that are, I guess, longer than this or something. And I don't know when that becomes, but I think it's an issue that we shouldn't expect the fire department to go down a road that they might not be able to get out of. And the point was just made, well, it's farm ground. Well, it used to be farm ground up north of Hutchinson too, and now look at it, so.
Yeah, and one of those roads up north of Hutchinson, it was in that Cottonwood Fire Complex, as I understand it, and correct me, but that wasn't even a township road.
private
They'd
road.
said, no, we don't want a township involved. So,
That may be a discussion for another day, but yeah.
yeah.
Is that all, Randy?
Or you want it, so I guess the question is,
Yeah.
do you want them to bring back a preliminary plat for your review prior to a final plat being presented to the commission?
Don't we already have that in our packet?
Yes.
I don't know why we need another one, myself.
It's fine with
I
me.
think we're okay
Okay,
without it.
all right, thanks.
Anything else, Randy?
No.
Okay, thank you. County Commission reports. Mr. Sellers?
I was gonna talk about the Yoder 101 water rates, but we've already solved that. I'd really like to thank all the county employees that were involved in the 150th celebration last year, particularly the two people with us today that were nice enough to be dunked, and that was an awful duty, you know, and I felt bad not volunteering for that, but after I saw it, I sure was glad I was not in that. But there was a lot of people from the county down there at the area, and we had very good representation for that party, and was very pleased with the city and county's efforts to put that together, and I think everybody had a good time. So Randy, please thank all the employees. I know some of the sheriff's people were there in a different area. I thought the county was very well represented.
Yes, I will, yeah, because, you know, we had the sheriff's officer, we had fire, rural fire districts, we had public works, health department, county clerk, so we had a good number of youth services, good number of departments represented out there.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Hurst?
Well, I'm sorry I missed that. We were up to, we attended the Kansas Governor's Ag and Innovation Seminar up on Wednesday night and Thursday. Had a good conversation with Secretary Beam, Kansas Department of Ag, as well as several others around. A very good program put on up there. Probably the better one that I've been to. There is Heartland Summit coming up on the 30th. It's down at the Cargill Downtown Center, their Business Innovation Center. K-96 corridor meeting has been changed to September, was it 12th, 13th? I can't remember that, but it's been changed. Let's see if I got that down here. The date's been changed anyway. Also, Jackson and I met with a group of people down at Pretty Prairie last night, and it's called Pretty Prairie Chat Group. It's different than the city council. It's a group of people who came together to talk about what we can do and what's needed for the city and how can we improve the city. And they asked us to come down and talk about their financing, especially Jackson, to talk about what they could do with regarding to financing, and what Startup Hutch really is a portion of the whole county, despite the name that it has. And we talked a little bit about how Startup Hutch is financed, and it was very well received, I believe. I had several questions, and so there was about 25 people there.
Oh my.
So it was a good group coming together, and so I just wanted to report on that. And basically, again, I'm sorry I was out of town during that time. It's been very interesting. I enjoyed seeing the pictures of the get-together. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Hurst. I wanted to mention a couple items. I don't know that they're necessarily ready for a discussion yet, but I got a call from a resident that owns land in the area, kind of within the Cottonwood Complex fire area, and asking about the designation of certain roads. And I've asked the county administrator to get clarification on what our position is on any responsibility. I don't think we have any responsibility on those roads, and I think one of the questions was, are those even roads? And I think they're looking into that, and there may be I'd like a written response to give back to that landowner, and unless you think the commission needs to act on it. But
I don't know if there's much you can, on action, but I know Don and I have had a conversation about writing a explanation, because it's pretty complex.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as this is a road,
Well,
not a road.
it's-
If you want Don to give
Sure.
kind of overview, he was prepared for that.
I started writing this up for you yesterday, and I've ran out of time. I have all the history of it. I've dug into the dirt and the weeds. This all started in 1975 and up to this point. And so really briefly, to let you know what's happened, is every time there's been a subdivision requested out there, there's one that was never recorded, another one was recorded, and even there was a resolution for the Board of County Commissioners to create those roads as roads. And every one of those had a condition that those roads by the petitioners be brought up to Valley Township standards, and they never were. And that's why we're in the situation we are now.
okay, perhaps part of your recommendation may be, if we have a responsibility to close the road or vacate it, so we don't have fire trucks going down those roads in the future, and letting people know that. I think there's some concern that there's confusion on whether the roads in the first place, and identifying them as not public roads may be a good idea.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. The roads have been there for such a long time that they are roads, whether you call them legally open roads or not. And you could not go in there and close those roads, because you would now landlock people that own property in there. But to answer your question, after somebody's used a path for so many years with no objection from anybody, it will become a road, and then that becomes another legal issue.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to think of, it gets very wonky in the whole process of what roads are and what public access is and all these things. But how I would describe it to someone who asked me just in simple terms, those roads that were never approved by the county, never went through the proper process, are glorified driveways for private landowners to access their land. That's what they are legally.
So we haven't identified them as roads. They're on private property. They're used as access, like common law access, right?
So similar to, I could go as a private individual, I could ride on any township road, I could Sunday drive and look at and drive around and have the right to be there. Those roads that were never by the county declared public rights of way, never accepted by the townships, never went through the proper. I don't legally, if I don't have any business out there and no one's invited me out there, I legally, don't have a right to be there. If I own that property, like Don said, of course I have a right to access my own property. And if someone invites me out there, if I have a business reason, and anyone who would, I think it's a crime, or at least it's a very bad idea for anyone. No one should disrupt an emergency responder from going across private property to respond to an emergency.
Right.
But so it gets very wonky in the details, and but those are not, in terms of the township doesn't have the obligation or really the right to maintain those roads. Would you agree, Don? So we have limited, unless they go through the process of properly being identified and opened by the county and getting up to township standards, the county doesn't even have the ability to do very much to police those.
But I guess where I'm headed is perhaps to solve the disagreements out there and confusion, we officially declare them not public roads, just to clear, because there seems to be an argument whether it's valid or not. And if we just said these, by order of the county commission, these are not roads, we're not maintaining them.
They are not public roads.
There are people that disagree with that.
And that's why I think he wants you to develop this written statement.
I take your point, because even though we don't have a requirement to do that, we're just kind of clearing and taking it, and I think Don and I can probably work on something like that, or at least
That'd be great.
The difference between back then and now is now when a subdivision is created, The roads have to be brought up to a certain standard, engineered, and the petitioners have to give the county that money, and then we bid it out and the roads are built. Back then, they created subdivisions and let the people create their lots and subdivisions prior to the road being built, and then the road was never built.
Well, one other, I'm sorry, it's taking so long, but should we consider prohibiting new dwelling construction on those dead-end roads until they're, like, they seem very dangerous? Or should we kick that to the planning commission to consider? Like, that's, like, if somebody wants to build out there again, I think we've heard from the fire department said, and the sheriff's office, that they're very lucky none of the first responders died getting out there, because it's very dangerous out there.
How that would affect the planning and zoning, how that would handle that is before you can build a house, you have to have 165-foot road frontage to a public road.
Okay, so it's already covered.
Right, so the question is public road. If there's not a public road, actually you can't build there. But this was all done prior to it being zoned and stuff. I'm talking about now.
Right.
So how that affects what's already in place out there, I do not know.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about what's out there. I'm just.
Oh, no, it's already covered for in the
somebody has a
future.
great idea to build a new house out there.
You have to have 165-foot of road
Okay.
frontage to a public road to build a house.
That's good. Thank you. It sounds like we're getting a little bit of feedback from the emergency management on what we want to focus the fire efforts on. Is there going to be a formal response back to the commission on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're doing a survey. They're kind of finding out from property owners,
Okay.
I guess, the interest
Good.
in allowing them and partnering versus going a different direction. So,
Okay. I got some feedback on that from some people too. Seems generally, well, I don't know. I got a couple comments, but and then yes, I was. Cindy and I were in the dunk tank at different times, and that was it was fun, but I think we need a resolution at some point that requires a maximum amount of time you can be in a dunk tank. Were you there too?
I was the first one.
Yeah,
I
he
did
was the
about
first
35 minutes.
Would you agree that was way too long?
It was quite a bit.
Yeah, I think I got dunked 40 times. Like,
Woohoo.
About twice the number.
I still had water in my brain the next day, but it was fun. It was fun for a while. But they had no line either. They were letting the kids 3 feet away. Like it was like a turkey shoot. I think there needs to be some rules next time. And a time limit, but-
That only happens every 150 years.
Okay, well then I don't care. But I appreciate it was good to see the county represented out there and all the county participation. So thanks for that. It was a good event. So unless there's other comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn. And we'll just